Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another video on Politics World. Today, I will be talking about a Supreme Court case you may have heard about recently in the media. The Supreme Court will begin oral arguments on the case beginning tomorrow, April 1st. It is a case of Trump v. Barbara, and this Supreme Court case revolves around the Birthright Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment. But how did this case start? Well, the facts of the case are that when President Trump took office back in January of 2025, he signed an executive order that nullified birthright citizenship. Shortly, not long after, in June of that year, his executive order was challenged in the federal court system on the grounds that it violated the original meaning, as interpreted by the Supreme Court in 1898, of birthright citizenship. It made its way up through the federal court system and was subsequently appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. It will begin hearing oral arguments tomorrow on April 1st. Now, what are the facts of the case? Well, the plaintiffs in the case, they argue that Trump's executive order unfairly overturns the principle that the child of any foreign national who is born on U.S. soil is automatically entitled to American citizenship. The Trump administration, on the other hand, is arguing that the original Supreme Court ruling that established the principle of birthright citizenship in United States versus Wong Kim Ark fundamentally misinterpreted the original meaning and intent of the 14th Amendment. What is the 14th Amendment? The 14th Amendment originally was instituted to give citizenship to the sons and daughters of former slaves. After the Civil War, the U.S. decided that in order to right the moral wrong of slavery, they would extend the privilege of American citizenship to the former slaves. And they wrote in establishing the 14th Amendment, any person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a citizen of the United States and the state in which they reside, and cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Now, the Trump administration has argued that since the former slaves were under the jurisdictional authority of the U.S., obviously as slaves and then later as freedmen, well, more specifically, freedmen after the Civil War, slavery was formally abolished with the ratification of the 13th Amendment, that they automatically could become citizens and that this specific amendment did not apply to anybody beyond the former slaves that lived immediately after the Civil War. Now, the plaintiffs in the Trump versus Barber case argue that because the 14th Amendment clearly states that any person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is automatically a citizen. But if that's true, if their contention on a legal basis is correct, then we must ask several important questions. The first question being, who is a citizen? What branch of the government makes immigration law? And what does the Constitution say? And who does it apply to with regard to citizenship? Well, if we read the preamble to the U.S. Constitution, it says, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. You'll notice the first part of the preamble here. We, the people of the United States. We the people. That is not we the people from Europe or we the people from any other country in the world. We the people who are already here. You'll notice it says, we intend to form this government to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, to ensure domestic tranquility, to provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, yada, 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 for to ensure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. What is the definition of posterity? Posterity refers to future generations. So, from this standpoint, we can logically conclude that future generations must refer to people who were in this country first, we the people, United States citizens. It was not intended, all the rights in the Constitution were not intended to apply to just anybody who was born here. But the privilege of citizenship was given to those who sought to become citizens and go through a legal process. Remember, Congress sets the immigration laws of this country, not an interpretation from the Supreme Court of any amendment, and not the wording of the document itself. Think of the original meaning of the 14th Amendment. It says, any person born in the United States, right? But think of the original meaning of the preamble. It says, we the people of the United States, referring to citizens. What I mean by this is that the preamble clearly, unambiguously, without any doubt, states that all the blessings of liberty that this document, the U.S. Constitution, is going to give to future generations of Americans applies to citizens only. That's what the 14th Amendment means by people under the jurisdiction of the United States. It applies to people who are citizens. It does not apply to people who pass through the United States as transients or on a tour somewhere to see some landmark. Clearly, all the rights and amendments in the Constitution were meant to apply to citizens, people who were already established. But I would like to hear your thoughts on the matter. Do you agree with my interpretation of the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment as based off of the preamble of the U.S. Constitution? Do you believe that birthright citizenship was meant to apply to people who were either in the process of becoming citizens or were allied in some way with the United States? Or do you think that citizenship belongs to just anybody who's born here? I'd like to hear your thoughts on this issue, and it'll be interesting to see how the Supreme Court ultimately rules on these questions. Their ruling is set to occur sometime in June. As of tomorrow, they're going to be hearing oral arguments. So leave your thoughts in the comments. I would like to hear your views on this matter, and have a great evening.